And to lean back. It's not getting you all the way. So anyway,
I'm the brother from another mother.
yes,
The
that's
sister from another mister. Maybe.
this is Dirt. I'm OC. For those of you who don't know, well, a lot of you on my channel know my name is Chris. Okay, well, that's his
I'm
name.
also Chris.
Right. That's how I got the nickname OC. And our favorite joke to tell every waitress is the great thing about us having the same name is you can never moan the wrong one.
That's still one of my favorite jokes, bro. Still.
So this was in my last video, the rant. This is the gentleman I was talking about who made the comment that supposedly, quote unquote, offended this particular pastor.
Yeah, I didn't know you got to talk to pastors like popes.
Well, yeah, and there's that. And I mean, you know, it'd be one thing if he said it in church or at his church or something. You know what I mean? Like, I totally would understand that. But this was completely taken out of context and whatnot,
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
Dirt has since decided to be the better man and just apologize and squash it. And it was funny because he was talking to me in between these videos. This part of the reason I decided to put him in this one was he was talking about how not only his sponsor had basically said that, why don't you just be the bigger man, turn the other cheek and apologize. But so did a good friend of his. And while he was telling me all of this, I couldn't help but start laughing because it's funny how the universe and or God work, in that regard.
God
And
is
that,
the universe.
well, yeah, in that regard, in the aspect that it happened in such quick succession. He was literally like, "What were you talking on the phone with both of us?" And it just kind of cracks me up because okay, here's a very innocent, innocuous, was actually a compliment, ironically, that was presented to somebody who's supposedly a man of God, and then turn around and I don't believe in coincidence. And here we have coinciding events that basically show him, hey, why don't you do what he should have done, and that's be the bigger man, turn the other cheek. And then he has two people in his life come in and say the exact same thing to him within 5 minutes. It's funny because sometimes when you can't hear what the universe is saying, it'll put it through somebody else's mouth.
But yeah, you know,
He hates when I
it,
do this shit.
it's not even the fact about you know he perceived it in a butthurt way the way I said it because I'm a very outlandish person and I don't possess a mental filter and I
Mm-hmm.
am very confident with an extensive fucking vocabulary. So I say things the way I say them in an informal manner in an informal setting. So I'll say what I want.
Maybe not extensive, maybe more like colorful or carnival. Like,
Okay, colorful. We'll stick
colorful.
with
We'll
colorful.
say colorful.
Okay, well, seasoned. There's another good
Oh,
one.
that's a good one. Seasoned,
A
yeah,
very seasoned vocabulary.
right.
It's something between a sailor and a drunk Mick.
Now, okay,
But
and a lot of you on my channel, you've heard me talk a lot of times about how the things you like and dislike in people, or the things you dislike in yourself, or like and dislike in yourself. So here you have two individuals who are obviously both very strong-willed and very strong principled, butting heads over, in the grand scheme of things, absolutely nothing.
realistically, I mean, realistically, absolutely nothing. But in the same sense, if he wants to sit there and for the sake of less bullshit in my life, okay, fine. But if it wasn't for this person that I respect, love, and adore greatly more than my more than my sponsor who started this conversation, that I about went through the damn room. Okay. Now, if it wasn't for this woman that I love and respect dearly, I don't even think that if I wouldn't have promised this person, oh, I'd fight tooth and nail. I'd listen. I've been kicked out of places for less, and another one's not going to make a difference to me. But for the sake of less BS I have to deal with, fine. And it wasn't wasn't derogatory. It wasn't anything out of pocket per se. You know what I mean? It's just me being the outlandish, colorful spoken person that I am. And it's weird because I've deluded myself for so many years to being a lower IQ society, now that I'm back to being me, I will not go quietly. And with that being said,
Well, I definitely agree with that. At the same time, choose your battles.
right, exactly.
Choose your battles
And
wisely, because sometimes, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, wholeheartedly speak your truth, be authentic, but at the same time, how much, what's your peace worth?
right, but I'm a firm believer, and you don't like what I'm saying, don't you? I mean, I'm
Touche,
sorry, but
touche.
that's just, and I'm the reason safe spaces catch fire. I'm the reason Karens fucking have heart attacks, and
Prides himself on it.
I have an old school wit about me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I enjoy being that person because you don't see people like people that are have the mental capacity for a good conversation and still be physically capable to fix things, to repair things, to do things that most people in this day and age will Google and YouTube.
And
You know,
still get wrong.
right, exactly. And I forgot more than people remember. And I don't apologize for who I am, but in this sense, I kind of have to for the sake of peace because there's too many people butt hurt over one word, one sentence, and
Well,
I have to pick my battles on this, and I really do.
and at the same time, it's not necessarily apologizing for who you are. Okay, I mean, I totally understand that perspective and that point of view, obviously, and in a way, yes, I completely agree with why it would feel that way and come across that way. At the same time, it's also lead by example.
I'm not the example.
Well,
You don't want me to be
here's my point. Here's my point. Here is somebody who considers themselves to be a very uh, to be a leader in their particular small spiritual community. Correct?
Yeah.
Right. So do what they should have done. Prove him wrong that way. Actions always speak louder than words. And if that's what he needs to feel a little bit of respect, fine, so be it. But even that, how a person reacts to you is not a judge of your worth; it's a judge of their character. And this
Yeah,
this
sure.
this example 100% proves that. And anybody who's watched any of my videos knows I speak on that all the time. Do I fall prey to it? Absolutely. I'm not perfect by any means. There are things that people say and do that piss me off to no end.
Mm-hmm.
I just a lot of times, more often than not, excuse me, bite my tongue, even though I don't have my teeth in. No pun intended. Got my tongue. For the sake of what I just said, my piece is far more valuable than their little bit of validation or whatever. Or I'd rather just keep my mouth shut. Which kind of rolls into the next thing I wanted to. We're just kind of ranting about. We do this thing every night called Gratefuls, and we had several people in Gratefuls tonight who supposed grown ass men, by the way. I mean, we're talking dudes in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who are acting like, oh, it's not fair. Rules are optional for some people. Crap. Like, really? Just get the fuck over it, dude. Like, the bottom line is this: the rules themselves are not optional. What's optional is whether or not you follow them, and then whether or not you have certain consequences. And some people have more consequences than others. Why? Because those people are taking advantage of the rules and they're not actually working on themselves. They're not actually making any internal progress. People think that they get here and they quit doing the drugs and alcohol and that's it. They're fixed and they're cured. No,
That's
not even close. You've barely even begun to. I mean, most of these dudes can't even clean up after themselves properly.
Oh my god.
And then, and they wonder why they get treated like children. Well, because you act like it.
For sure. For sure.
It's really that simple.
Yeah.
And hey, I was there once too, believe me.
Oh yeah.
That's how I can recognize the behavior. But the bottom line is this: as addicts, most of us emotionally, we are children. We've got guys in here who are 50, 60 years old who've been drinking on a regular basis or drugging since they were in their teens or 20s.
I was 15.
Yeah. So when you quit and start to take sobriety seriously, guess what? Emotionally, you're 15, 20, 18 years old, and you're a 60-something, you're a 50-something year old man. Like, come on, yeah, you got a lot of shit to catch up on.
Yeah,
Sure. And while I definitely give them you know, some grace, at the same time, it's like, really, really.
Need to get a shirt that says "Grow Up." That's all that's saying it, and we'll let people get feel how they want to feel about those 6 letters on a T-shirt. Well, it just says "Grow Up."
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying self-parenting is easy. Obviously, I struggled with it for over 20 fucking years. I'm not,
Right.
I
You know, this
comes
is
back to my other rant. You know what I mean? My past doesn't define me anymore.
nope. But you know, the funny thing about the past defining it that I've learned is you can never truly excel unless you cut out the people who always want to show you that you're still that person. You know, and that's one thing
Well,
that's
yeah. I mean, there's definitely something to that for sure. I've had to do that to an extent, and almost anybody I know who has any amount of successful sobriety has had to do it, at least for a time period,
mm-hmm.
until essentially their past catches up with who they are now. You know, and that's one of the things that as addicts we struggle with a lot. You know, it's not just the identity crisis we go through, but we struggle with the fact that, we have all of our friends, families, and loved ones have all of these unresolved resentments and hurts and stuff, and
Yeah.
a lot of misconceptions, misinformation, and misunderstanding as to why we do the things we do.
Right.
Most addicts do what they do because they hate themselves. It's not a reflection of you at all, or your lack of love. Actually, if anything, you loving us more is really kind of harmful because it just makes us feel more guilty for being a fucking asshole and making bad decisions. And we go out and just continue to do it. It's really fucked up. I know. It doesn't make any sense, but it's how it
Yeah.
is.
Either way, it feels like a defeating purpose. Sometimes it really does. You know, because yeah, you destroyed a lot of things over the years through addictions. You know, mine personally was masking traumas, not dealing with emotions, and hiding from myself. You know what I mean? And then I spent 26 months building myself. Well, I thought I was building myself.
Well, you were
No, I think I was masking the inevitable.
a little bit.
I think I was. You know what I mean? But
I
and
think
here
you.
I am
I
back.
think you traded one addiction for another, and
Ooh, ooh,
I think a lot of people. I think a lot of us do that, and I can say that to you because
yeah,
um, yeah,
yeah.
I'll leave it at that. I won't go any further on this particular video.
And in light of things, what's crazy about certain things of wanting to do better for myself in this sense is I realize where my strengths and weaknesses are, and I can articulate where I'm broken and what I need to fix. You know, and I think that puts me ahead of the game in a lot of senses when it comes to maybe potentially having a successful recovery more time under my belt than the 26 months that I worked my ass off. You know, I realized that I may not have worked hard enough. You know, and I'm back here banging in these workbooks, talking to my sponsor sometimes twice, 3 times a day. And sometimes it's about nothing. Sometimes it's about something. Sometimes I talk to you. Sometimes I talk to God. But,
You should always be talking
you
on that
know,
one.
I realize this time around I work harder than an ugly stripper. And
Facts.
and I'm not gonna be able to build the house, meaning the internal part of me. I'm not gonna be the best version of myself without that work. You know what I mean? And as long as I can get a deep knowledge of where I'm broken and what it's going to take between me, God, and the light post to fix it, it's going to be a vicious cycle. And I want to really break down these generational curses. You know, my
Mm-hmm.
father, my father died at 57 years old. He died of liver failure and liver cancer. We didn't know he had liver cancer. Never told anybody, but I don't think he knew. He had a calcinated liver, which basically just means
He pickled
Your
it.
liver looks like a piece of rock candy from calcium buildup because he never ate. All he did was drink milk and eat cheese because his stomach was so pissed off. But I think that a lot of my cross addiction and stuff like that came from generational curses because I didn't know my grandparents all like that. My grandfathers, one died well before I was born, and one died when I was 8 years old, and I didn't get to know him all like that. So I didn't get to know who he was inside now. So
Okay.
I'm pretty sure there's curses in my family that I don't know about, but
Well, hold that thought. What
absolutely,
is a generational curse to you?
sure. The generational curse.
Yeah. What is that?
Oh,
Define that.
my generational curse. My generational curses are, to me, are things that are passed down from generation to generation. Like I know that my grandfather, World War II, that was an alcoholic. My father was an alcoholic. I was an alcoholic. You know what I mean? And it was really a curse down. And my parents were mentally and emotionally abused. They passed that shit down to me, and I did the same thing to the family that I drank and argued away. Generational curses, because did they do the best they can with what they had? They would say so, but I think things could have been done differently. I did different things different with my daughter to a certain extent. Then curses caught up with me, and I was exactly who I never wanted to be. But I did the one thing that the generations before me didn't do: reach out and ask for help, and found out what help looked like. And I think that's one thing that is really a inbound blessing for me because it's given me more of a chance to reevaluate who I am, reevaluate my worth, reevaluate my sense of self because I fogged all those things over. I never wanted emotions again. I never wanted to bring people close again, connect with anything. Now that's the only thing I thrive for. That's the only thing like a part of me yearns for is connection to I want to love more than my daughter. I want to appreciate the snow falling. I want to appreciate the blue sky. I want to appreciate sitting up first thing in the morning. Those are things that are hard to appreciate when I was in addiction, when I was fogged over, when I was just trying to, you know what I mean? And still some days it's hard for me to appreciate them. But I still thank God and the universe for allowing me to get up to see it. Because just recently we lost a person that me and OC here was in this place with before. We recently lost him due to going back to what's familiar. And I think that that's one of the scariest things because over the summer I did the same thing. I went back to what's familiar and I destroyed myself once again in a different way this time. But it was still for the same reasons of hiding from my emotions, hiding from my convictions, hiding from the fear of connection, the fear of hurting somebody else. But now,
Okay. So on this channel, I've done a lot of videos on generational curses, and what you described is definitely pretty accurate. And it's I've talked a lot about how people are taught to love under condition instead of unconditional love. Um, yeah,
yeah,
and it obviously it happened with you, it's happened with me, it's happened with just about everybody I know, and it's not necessarily a fault of our parents. They did the best they knew how. They did what they were taught and what they were taught before them and before them and before them and so forth and so on. So yes, in that regard, it is considered a generational curse, and that's also some people have a theory that generational curses or continued sustain, for lack of better terms right now, emotional abuse, for example, from generation to generation will actually start to rewrite your DNA, which is a form of evolution, by the way. We won't get into that right now, but um, that's partially where the theory of alcoholism being a hereditary disease comes from, among other things, but that's part of it. So, in that regard, yes, it's true. I think the underlying thing there is with most generational curses, in my experience, I could be wrong. Um, what it teaches a person is it, what it doesn't teach a person. Let me restate that is true self love. We're taught that relationships and love is a transaction, and that being in a relationship with somebody and loving somebody is a form of possession. It's not actually, and it's the old cliche, the old adage: if you love something, set it free. If it's meant to be, it'll come back, and that's true. Um, it's absolutely true because if you truly love somebody unconditionally, you want nothing but the best for them, regardless of whether or not they're with you or even in contact with you.
Yep.
Um, but a lot of us that we're taught this stuff, and it's through a myriad of different ways, and it's basically the subconscious beliefs and the subconscious mind that we're programmed with at a young age, just on autopilot, acting out, telling the conscious mind, no, recognize this behavior, go towards this, do that. And what happens is we end up in a lot of times in these self-sabotaging situations. In my example, I was taught similar stuff, obviously slightly different execution as to how it affected me, but the end result was pretty much the same. I had severe abandonment issues because when I was born, they took me from my mother. I didn't even get the initial bonding with my mother 5 minutes after birth. They threw me in an incubator because I was 4 pounds 2 ounces and I was premature. My mother was also hemorrhaging at the time and lost 6 pints of blood. I almost killed her. I'd become partially detached. The placenta had become partially detached about the last 6 weeks. Anyway, so there was my abandonment issue, which I've had since birth. My self worth issue came from at a very impressionable age when I was in my teens. My father and my mother had split up, and my father was unfortunately not faithful. And I grew up in a house of three sisters, no brothers. So I grew up in a house of women, and all they did was badmouth my father and how much of an asshole he was. So at a very young age, I got the impression that basically because I was my father's son and therefore I would be my father, I was basically a worthless piece of shit. How that has manifested in self sabotage was real simple. Anytime somebody started to get close to me, I did absolutely everything I could to try to prove this loyalty over and over. Well, how I tried to prove the loyalty was I would become emotionally distant to the point where these people would have to go outside of my relationship to find what they were looking for, to find what I'd initially given them, so that I could turn back around and prove to them that I was worthy of that love through my loyalty.
Hmm.
It's tough. It's taken me a long time to figure all of this out. That
carrot stick, huh?
right, that is a generational curse. The hardest part has been just identifying it. Healing it mostly has just been sitting with all of the emotions and taking the ownership and the accountability for it. You know, my life up to now and into this point has been 100% my responsibility, flat out. You know, regardless of the times that people have hurt me and all, and I've been through some trauma. I've been pistol whipped. I've been all kinds of stuff. Okay, you know, at the same time, it was me who put me in those situations. It was me who said the things that that triggered those people to react. Am I taking responsibility for their reactions? No, I'm not. But I am taking responsibility for the part I play. And that's a big thing most people miss. You
Yeah,
know.
for sure.
Now, in your case, yeah, I think you're absolutely right in the aspect that there were obviously certain things you were taught that you have just been recreating. And one thing that I've said to you before, and I'm going to say now, is I think a big part of your self worth it took a big hit with your marriage, um, and I think you've been punishing yourself for that for I don't know, a decade.
Yeah, close.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but that's coming. You've kind of made some terms with that, and that's coming to a close here sooner than later. So,
yeah, for sure. It has, because I I left her, she never left me.
right.
And I think
Well, it's the same thing with my ex.
right.
Like
I
I
think
can't blame my ex for trying to protect herself from me at all. I don't, and I don't. You know, I'm sorry things worked out that way. I'm sorry I absolutely fucking broke her heart and destroyed our relationship by relapsing and whatnot in the way I was behaving at the end. But I don't blame her at all. I blame myself.
right. Mine was, oh, she quit drinking for 2 years to see if I'd follow suit. I didn't understand what the word present meant.
Ooh,
I didn't.
the reason they call it present because
Right.
it's a gift.
Exactly. I didn't know what I didn't know what that meant at the point in time. Because regardless of what happened the night before, she would brush it off and try to give me the best day possible.
I know it was
And I
way
would
too
be the
much.
same asshole from the day before. You can only give people so many presents until you give them no choice but to save their sanity, save themselves, no matter how much they love you.
Well, see, and there's a trick in there, okay? Because obviously I've experienced similar. And a lot of people would say, "Oh, it's you didn't appreciate that person or didn't appreciate," and that is to an extent. But there's a deeper meaning as to why you kept essentially subconsciously refusing that gift of presence because you didn't feel like you were worthy of it.
Oh, absolutely not.
Right. Now, once you identify all of that stuff, and you
Shit
make the
was more worth than me at the point in time. That's the way I felt.
right, and once you identify that, and you make the decision to stop fighting yourself and surrender to the process of essentially, starting to heal yourself. And the actual process of healing is actually pretty easy. It's painful, but it's the hardest part is just identifying it and making that decision. Just like making the choice to finally get sober and take sobriety seriously. The hardest part is just saying, okay, I throw in the towel. I really
Yeah,
do. And stop fighting yourself, and I see
that's
guys
my
here,
biggest thing. I
guys,
fight myself. It's my self reliance. It's you know
right.
what I mean. And
That's that whole identity crisis portion of it.
oh yeah, for sure.
I've
It definitely. I that's the one thing like with these things that I've been working on lately. Really is reevaluating what I value, and when I take time to reevaluate what I value, it gives me the opportunity to reevaluate myself.
mhm.
You know what I mean? Because growing up, my self worth was only based on what I was capable of doing, whether it be painting, roofing, framing, and stuff like that. What I was capable of doing with these two dick beaters right here. That's it. That's what my self worth was growing up.
Well,
Other
and
than
that's also okay. That's part of that generational curse because not only is that a product of your family, but that's a product of society as
right,
well. And as men, yes, most of the time we're only, as you've stated many times, we're only valued by what we can produce.
right,
And that, yeah, and that's where we get addicted to the lifestyle of addiction because we're constantly running around putting out fires. We're hustling up money we need for our fix and all this other stuff, and it makes us feel productive and therefore worthy.
but
And I think that's one of the key pieces you missed last time.
yeah, the one biggest thing about with me in my addiction and in terms of hiding from myself is I didn't have to reevaluate my self worth because I didn't care about it.
Well, yeah,
You know what I mean? And it
it's
gave
called
me
self-loathing.
yeah, you know what I mean. And during the time when my daughter wouldn't talk to me, you know what I mean. It was a self erasing process to where I thought my life would be their life would be better without me in
Right.
it. And boy was I wrong. Because once I decided to take a real honest swing at this, and really put some time under my belt, I got to the opportunity to have conversations with my daughter that I never thought were possible. And then I realized with the birthdays I missed, the Christmases and stuff like that, that self erasing was a waste of time, not only mine but theirs. And at the given time, I didn't know any better, and I didn't care to know. See, that's the one thing that keeps coming back to me is I became the poster child for. I don't fucking care. I became the poster child for. Let me just be alone, because when I'm by myself, I don't have to self destruct everything. I don't have to be the wrecking ball that tears everything good around me down to be alone because there's nobody around to hurt.
Ooh.
And then it's no longer the drugs that become the addiction; it's the silence. It's the I don't have to deal with this. It's
Mm-hmm.
the I don't have to. I don't have to lay these cards out. I don't have to show my hand to anybody because I already put the cards away. You know, but now I'm at a point in my life turning 40 this year. And I feel like I can do myself a new hand, a better hand. You know, I feel like now that I know what my soul requires to heal is a big thing for me. And to be able to have an honest conversation with myself, to be able to have an honest conversation with you and really feel better when I stop talking. Because
Ooh,
that's the one thing that didn't really bite
there's some
as much as
progress,
it
huh?
does now is the relief. Because the brutal honesty that I have with myself now is more honest than I've ever been with myself in my whole life. I pulled away layers, but my onion's a whole lot bigger than I give it credit
Right.
for. Okay, and
Facts.
but the brutal honesty and the capability that I have of the no fucks given on no holds barred. There's no stop signs or red lights to my recovery now, which is the way I looked at my addiction. There was no such thing as stops and red lights. I go hard or go home, and I
Right.
definitely didn't go home. You know, so
It
now
reminds me of that bad joke. How come so many homeless people end up being, or how come so many orphans end up being famous? Go big or go home.
wow,
We're
I love it.
horrible. We're going to hell.
Yep, he's driving, and I got the map.
Right, trust me.
We got the matches and the whiskey in the trunk. We'll be down there selling matches and whiskey. See us there.
You know, so to sum up here real quick,
Mhm.
great points, all of them. And, you know, a lot of the guys here at the house, it's winter time, we're kind of cooped up, you know. So people get a little antsy. And that was the other comment the one guy made. Uh, he said that, you know, I know a lot of people here don't like me, blah, blah, blah. Basically, thanks for tolerating me. And I kind of laughed because in my head I thought, first of all, John, most of the guys here don't even like themselves. Okay, and you expect them to like somebody else?
What, Farmer John said that?
Yeah,
Oh man, half the people don't even know him.
I know. So there's that. But a lot of people get really antsy in the wintertime, you know, and it's because they're not comfortable in their own skin. They can't sit still because they don't know how. They don't like themselves. They don't, and it's the same thing. I mean, that happened with you. Yeah,
Yeah,
things were
absolutely.
going great. You were sober. You had a good job. This, that, and the other thing. But at the same time, yeah, you weren't comfortable in your own skin yet.
No,
So
absolutely not.
we're gonna leave that one at that because this started 32 minutes. Ooh, my bad. So I'm sure Chris will be back on soon. We're going to be doing some Formula One stuff here soon. The season's starting. Their first preseason test is supposed to be private, but they keep putting out highlight reels and stuff. Not much to take away from it yet, so I'm not even digging into it. I'm not getting into all the speculation and clickbait bullshit and all that stuff. That's one thing I'm not going to do. So,
Yeah, they sound like bastard
oh,
child of
don't
the
they?
90s. I love
They
it.
do sound better than Last Generation. They really do. I'll give them that. So far, it's real simple. Mercedes and surprisingly Red Bull, and credit where credit is due. This is the first year they're making their own power unit. They seem to be the front runners. We have yet to see McLaren run. Williams isn't participating in this particular test. Although Williams, McLaren, Alpine, and Mercedes all use the same power unit, so I suspect all of them will be relatively strong. Um, Ferrari's actually looking decent, at least as far as their reliability goes. We'll see about the performance issues when we get to the better tests. So anyway, we're gonna leave that one at that. I'll talk to y'all later. Goodbye.
Take care.